What's up, guys? Will and Chris back with another weekly podcast where we spend our lives on crypto Twitter so that you don't have to. We cover all the majors and everything else interesting that happened in the last week. So without further ado, let's get into a quick chat about Bitcoin and ETH. I woke up, I don't know about you, but I woke up to a vicious nuke in the market this morning. It was not
This looks
fun.
terrible. Yeah.
Horrible.
I just saw a lot of caps in my Telegram. I was like, Jesus, something's going wrong.
Yeah, I get I don't even trade on Femex, but I do have the exchange app and I get like price notifications, and I woke up to I think like 23 notifications this morning of like Bitcoin is down 1% in the last 5 minutes, ETH is down 1%.
ETH holding up okay,
Yeah.
actually. Look at this shit.
Yeah, look, I was gonna say I think this was more a liquidity grab than anything. I don't know if we don't have the open interest charts, but I was looking at those this morning, and open interest got absolutely smashed with this downwards move. So I wasn't looking at liquidation levels, but if I had to guess, I think this was really hunting for people's stops. We saw, I don't know if you saw, Chris, that guy with the I think $50 million notional,
Yeah.
20x Bitcoin
On
long.
Hyperliquid, I think, right?
Look, man, like you're just asking to get liquidated. And not only that, but like Hyperliquid, despite its name, is relatively liquid. But when you're talking in size like that, it's just not. And this guy
Yeah,
not
seriously.
only went big on a book that was not liquid enough to save him if things started going down for his stops, and he also publicly shared his liquidation prices. I don't know what that guy was thinking. I didn't recognize his name. I don't know if he's been around for a while, but
I didn't either, but I
yeah,
just thought it was
I don't know.
hilarious. I was like, I cannot believe this happened right now, dude. It's like, what a fucking
I think he
moron,
was
dude.
down. Last I checked, he was down 7 mil or
Was
something
7? Okay, I saw it at
on a
1.5
position.
still. just down only since then. I mean, that's brutal to lose 50 like this. But I mean, dude, you kind of deserve
What
it,
are you
dude.
thinking?
Like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking, dude? You're gonna put that shit out there publicly? Um, just a mistake, dude. And like you said on Hyperliquid, dude, like Hyperliquid's cool, man. I like it, but like you said, that's a big position, dude. Like I don't know if it's gonna work out well in your favor, but here we are. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I think it's nothing, to be honest, dude. It's like there's nothing to even talk about here.
Liquidity
People.
grabs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just the same bullshit up and down. Another day in the trenches. It doesn't even look bad, dude. Like I bet you, we get a couple things, it just reverts right back up. It's all just like very, very low time frame movements. There's really nothing here, and we're still at 58. I mean, it is what, and it's already coming back up a little bit. It's going to chop here, but I wouldn't be surprised we're right back to 65, like not that far away for BTC.
Yeah, I mean,
Again,
I was
looking
hoping
good.
we'd hold 60K on Bitcoin, but yeah, looks like we're stuck in this range again. Story of our lives this summer.
We have really, yeah, we've seen. I mean, this is just like again, this range is just perfect. It's just we continue to live here, and nothing goes on except this. So, but
Nothing ever happens.
it is what it is. Like I still think we've got so much positive ahead of us. I think what this initial spike was kind of like, I think we had Jackson last week, Jackson Hole, right?
Yep.
Where, Powell sort of indicated that the rate cuts are coming in so many words. And that kind of led to a little bit of euphoria. People got to 65. Then someone had to go and open a $50 million position. And then someone decided to try and kill him, So here we are, but just another day out here. But, don't let the day-to-day stuff, sway you too much. At the end of the day, the rate cuts are definitely here. And again, the existing folks in office need some juice to get us to the next level. So I think we see this inflows come, we see this continue to rip, but all good. Just another fun week in crypto. But Alt's been struggling a bit, though. I mean, I'd say that with this nuke, it doesn't look horrible. Truthfully,
I mean, I was looking at alt market cap, all altcoins and crypto, excluding Bitcoin the other day. Oh yeah, the total two you have at the top.
Yep.
And yeah, we are basically back to where we started the year at with altcoins, which was like shocking to me. I mean, obviously I've seen in my portfolio these things have come down, but
You're right.
I still thought that we were much higher than we were. So that's, I don't know, that's interesting to me. Like majors are still by far the main principle of the story this cycle. We've not seen a real switch yet.
Yep.
I hope it's coming. That's how I'm positioning. But I did think that was interesting. We are very close to where we started the year,
Crazy.
despite everything that's happened,
Just an
ETFs and
insane run
everything.
up, and then just nothing but downward. This is the classic light thing where it's it's the cycle that just keeps going down smaller and smaller and smaller over time. I mean, it tracks perfectly to that.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah. But I mean, look, this happened. What if we just track this movement, right? We just look at the total, right? This was last year around November, give or take, September, right here. October 18th, we began this absolute insane run up, and so checking the clock, it's August, it's end of August right now, so we're right around the corner, and so hopefully we get a phase two of this.
Yeah. I
But
mean, people buy crypto as a whole is a super risky asset class that people really only buy when they feel like they have extra money. And altcoins are like the even more risky side of that asset
right.
class. So I don't really expect, it's been a fairly risk off environment, even in TradFi. And I think until we get some real movement on Bitcoin and ETH making like real new all time highs, I think we barely eclipsed ours from last cycle on Bitcoin. But until we get like a real move there, I don't really expect to see the alt market pop off. I just don't think there's money flowing into these things.
I agree. There's no one. It's just $15 tokens in the trenches, just like a bunch of people knifing each other all day, but there's nothing really happening. Again, I think you
Yep.
chill out in some high quality ones, maybe a few high quality alts, and just the majors, and just kind of wait it out. There's no reason to get chopped to death right now. You want to just chill and wait for easy mode, and we're definitely not there
Yep.
yet. Things are still choppy and unclear, and every day it's up, it's up or down, it's bearish or negative, we just don't know. So just sit tight, sit in your hands and do nothing, but we're nearing the end of it. I think we're nearing the end of the thaw. um so anyway, but nut stuff. But I mean, even nuttier than this, maybe all the nonsense in in both like the real world and crypto. I mean, two things, both Telegram related. Last week, I think it was Thursday, the CEO of Telegram was arrested in France. Right, he touched down in his plane, arrested, and I believe the charges were there were nothing really related to him doing any criminal activities. It was the fact that Telegram uh, is a chat platform, and so people chat about things they might not like on there, right? And the fact that he's failed to moderate them, which is a ridiculous claim, has been enough to land him in a French prison. And not too long after, I guess this was last night. Now, a couple days later, the Ton blockchain, which is Telegram's thing, which is everyone thinks is the most promising new product of the year, just because I mean they've gone from to their credit. I mean they've gone, I think they've dipped a lot. But if you look at tokens here, the top 10, I mean it's hard to break into top 10 tokens still, you know, and so it's hard to go from nothing to a top 10 token. And this is what 14. What's the FDV on this thing? 28 billion, so it's a big token.
Jesus.
And it's like come out of nowhere. So it's gone well, but like, last couple of days it just started to go down, and like not for a little bit. The chain has been down for a while now, and I think Will, you said a little bit earlier, it looks like it's down again now.
Yeah,
So
we had
not bad,
6 hours of downtime last night, and it was up for another 2 hours or so. And at time of recording, I just checked, and it's now down again. So that's not great. I think look, I think it's entirely unrelated to the arrest thing, which we can talk some more. I think there's some hilarious conspiracy theories around how and why he got arrested. But yeah, the
yes, mostly
so
involving a blonde woman.
yeah.
Um,
As always, it's always the same. But yeah, look, I mean, Ton has been telling people they can do 55,000 transactions per second. It looks like the chain went down due to too much load. And at the time it went down, it was doing around 250 transactions per second, which, is about 99% off of what they've actually told people they can do. So I think everybody, like you said, Ton kind of came out of nowhere, but it's been around for many years. It's not like it's a fresh, brand new product. The reason I think nobody was paying attention is because even though it is technically or it was created by Telegram, there's that degree of separation now because of this big lawsuit that they had, and it's really not that integrated with the chat platform itself. But I
I've never
think
used it. Have you?
never used it. I've been a Telegram user for many years, and I've never once seen it or been in a position where I could use it. So,
Same.
but yeah, I think all of that stuff is really good for building a price narrative. I think the problem is that it was never tested to the point where people saw whether it was real or not. And now we're seeing that. And it seems like the chain was taken down by a very basic meme coin airdrop claim that yeah, again, took the chain down at around 250 TPS, which like that's really bad. That's really, really bad, especially for what it's designed to do. It's supposed to be fast, cheap, efficient, mobile friendly, and integrated into one of the world's largest chat platforms. And from where I'm currently sitting, it seems like it does basically none of those things. Um, which is a big problem. I mean, I remember Pantera announced earlier this year that Ton is their largest investment ever.
Yep.
People have put a lot of money into this thing, so we'll see where things go. I think all the fundamentals of a blockchain really do matter, and despite that, you can create a narrative around things that may make it seem like the fundamentals don't matter. At a certain point, if your chain starts going down, people have to realize that maybe all the things that they bought your token for aren't entirely true.
Yeah, I mean it's a
Yeah,
big
I
deal.
don't
Like the
know. I
chain
don't hold
goes
any
down, it's
time
like
myself.
you
Yeah.
can't get money out. You know, everything is
Yep.
stuck. You can't do anything. Whatever you've got there is completely screwed. So if you have money there, it's just stuck, and you can't do
You
anything
can't
until it
touch
comes
it.
back up, right? And trust me, the minute it comes back up, people are going to try and withdraw. People are going to do things that which has probably led to what we're doing right now, which is another outage, right? And so, you know, it is serious. We'll see. It's still early in the ton life cycle, truthfully, right? Because I still think there's a lot of it is stupid, but there's a certain mimetic quality to just being Ton and being the Telegram chain, and I think it's not to be ignored. And given how stupid and short minded we all, short attention span we all are in crypto, I wouldn't be surprised if this disappears. And like it is funny to see, you know, what's the other tweet here from our buddy Mert here on who's really a big Solana shill and always talks about that to, you know, to basically to the, you know, downtime happens, you know, but you know, it happens. It's not a huge deal, which is like, you know, there's that great meme which is James Franco with the noose around his neck and the other dude getting hung, and James Franco's like first time, and someone had implemented to put the Solana logo over him. And you know, Solana back in the day used to go down all the time. Now I don't think it went down for this long, for the 6 hours at a time, you know, to be fair to them.
Well, I
But
remember
I can't
when
remember
I
honestly.
don't remember if it was right after. I think it was right after Celsius collapsed. There was one big like perps dex on Solana at the time. I'm not remembering what it was called. But I do remember it was down for like 4 or 5 hours, and as the market was nuking, everybody's getting liquidated, but they can't do anything about it because the chain was down.
Oh,
Like
that's
that's
pretty brutal.
terrifying, you know? I
That's
mean, you
pretty
can
brutal.
say that it doesn't, the downtime happens, but like having your money stuck like that, especially when markets can move like they do, when you have, real size positions that can be affected by this, like that's unacceptable to me. I won't
Agreed.
use any of these chains.
And it was just disappearing in front of you, you know. So
Yeah.
I think it's a real thing. So I do think, look, will they get over it? It's possible, honestly. I'm not like negative on it, you know, but it is just something to note. It's quite the downtime, and the timing could
Yeah.
not be worse, you know, with Pavel in
I
jail
am
right now.
curious. I'm curious how they get it back up online. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit, I have no idea how Ton really functions. I don't know what
I
their
have no idea.
validator set looks
It's
like.
probably like six validators in a Discord. They just text their buddies and say, "Hey,
Yeah,
we gotta restart the chain,
exactly.
bro." You
That would be
know?
my guess. But if it's more decentralized than that, then I would give them some credit.
I
But
saw a
I'm
tweet
guessing
from
it's not.
DJ News on this. Something was just like, "Hey, yeah, you're right, dude.
I mean,
It
yeah, if
failed.
your chain has
Down
to,
again an hour ago."
if to relaunch your chain, you need to like text a couple of people to, turn their validator back on at the same time, like that's not good.
There we go.
Should not be like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, this is it right here, So, um, seems
Oh
like
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
tried,
There it
and
is. I mean, it's the
yeah,
same. It's the
paid
same way
off.
Solana functions. Solana has obviously significantly more validators, but
Yeah.
it's the same
At the
same
time, it wasn't though.
concept.
I remember it was like 200 or so validators. That was like
Yeah,
way back in the day, and I was like, man, it's really not that
yeah.
many.
They've decentralized quite a bit. I mean, the problem is again to restart it, you still need personal contact with all these people. So
Right, exactly. Because anyway. So it does show the point of like crypto. Like at the end of the day, like the whole point is supposed to be decentralized and open, and then like working all the time. And that's the trade off you make between something like ETH and one of these other things where it's faster, in theory, and all these things, but they go down a lot, and it can be unreliable, But it's all part of the whole thing is a big experiment, so I'm not going to like shit
yeah.
on Ton that much. We'll see where it goes, but I think despite the price action to everything going on, like if you talk to actual engineers and builders, nobody's building on Ton, right? And like you said, most people from a user perspective, nobody uses Ton, right? And actually, the broad story around Ton and the blockchain is like there's nothing there, and like nobody really uses it, and it's still very early, and it's for a bunch of reasons. I mean, one is like you would imagine a Telegram coin is integrated with Telegram, and it's not. So like that kind of like defeats the purpose of my opinion. And maybe it's coming, right? Maybe I'm not going to knock it. Maybe it's like not that easy, but that's one piece that sort of like takes away and sort of deflates the story a little bit. Number two, my understanding is written in like C or something like that, or like it's there's something. It like I think actually building on Ton is not very easy, and that alone is a huge barrier, right? And so. And it's their own flavor of C. It's my understanding. I could be getting that wrong, so feel free to fact check me. But my understanding is like it's their own flavor of C. So it's not only do you have to find like some esoteric word of the world that like writes C, but then you've got to like find them who wants to learn the Ton flavor of C. So it's a tricky thing, So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that are going against it. Um, we'll find out where it lands. But crazy stuff in
Yeah.
general, just with the whole Pavel stuff. I mean, I think zooming out from crypto for a second, I think it's absolute travesty what's happening to him. It's just absolutely ridiculous to arrest somebody over what's going on in their platform like that, right? Like, people do drug deals on on cell phone networks all the time. The AT&T, they don't fly to AT&T and Verizon and arrest them. I'm like
Yeah.
the internet itself is filled with nonsense and garbage. Like Facebook has all kinds. You just don't arrest these people, but because it's things they don't like, right? And because they're going to try and arrest Pavel and it's probably because look, the guy's Russian. He's like he's got ties to people who they might not like and all these things. So it's just ridiculous. It is a real attack, I think, on free speech, and I think it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Truthfully. And
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting question that I think is like one of the biggest ones that we need to answer, specifically in the US, but around the world too, is the question of is somebody who makes a product designed for one thing that is then used for illicit means or bad things or whatever, should they be responsible or liable for those things? We saw with Silk Road that the founder was held liable. We saw with, but then again, he didn't just make the platform. He was also doing some shady shit himself. Same thing was true with the Tornado Cash guys, which was a privacy tool. It's still around, I guess.
yeah,
But privacy tool to conceal where your transactions come from. I actually personally really value my own transactional privacy. I never use Tornado Cash, but I use other means of obfuscation. So look, it's like a real needed tool. But of
great.
course, two founders were arrested. The problem was they laundered money and facilitated the laundering of money personally. So like to me, it should be very simple. I don't think if the situation is just you've created, to use Telegram as an example, you create this chat platform that becomes one of the most used platforms in the world, known for your encryption and security. Of course, people are going to use it for shady shit too. But as
100%.
long as you are not personally facilitating that and you are not making that easier to happen while knowing you are doing so, I don't think there's any reason you should be held liable. I actually think it's
100%.
important to have apps like this where people can discuss things that they may not want other people to read about. I think it's pretty important. And
100%.
from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like he himself has taken part or facilitated any of the shady stuff. So
Doesn't seem like it.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it's really scary, and I know I know the French police have been trying to arrest him for a couple of years. I know he's gone on record and said the US and other countries have told him he needs to create a backdoor for them into his app. So there are all these reasons that these governments don't like him outside of just what they're saying. But yeah, no, it's scary. I think I hope that situation gets resolved and he gets out soon.
Totally, totally. By the way,
Yeah.
one side note: if you do this, be careful. After he got arrested, I was advised to export all of my chats to save your history and save your contacts and all that stuff in case it goes down. Just be careful if you do that, because if you download Unigram or Telegram Lite, and one of these things lets you do that, it'll completely destroy your Telegram usage. And so it happened to me. I spent the whole weekend fixing it. Basically, it'll mute all your chats. It'll disassociate your desktop from mobile. It's still like half broken. So in case you are trying to reach me and you're not getting it, this is why. There's something going on with my Telegram. We've gotten it 90% back, but I'm still, missing things here and there. But yeah, just be careful around that as well, which is insane to me that it's that. Like it basically, like, you have two databases. It just corrupts the database because now it doesn't know which one to read, and so it's just hard for me to understand how it's like that hard to do. But hey, just be careful there on that. But in other news on like other insane things that are happening, right? This week's the crypto news is not really price action or new token related, but it's really like this type of stuff. Two things. One, yesterday Trump announced his new NFT. I actually don't know anything about it, to be honest, but
Well, it's
some kind
just
of Trump NFT.
it's the same
It's
shit again. It's the
Yeah, that's
fourth
what I
time he's
figured.
done this. It's like sweepstakes to win cocktails at Mar-a-Lago, like dinner with Trump, like yeah. I guess so the one new thing which I think is hilarious is I think there's some kind of sweepstakes to win a piece of the suit he was wearing during his
Yep.
last debate with Joe Biden.
Yep.
Uh,
They did that in the last one too. He's been doing that. He's been doing
oh,
that
did
because
that? Okay.
he's been selling like a piece of the suit for a while, and honestly, it's sick. So, um, but um, but yeah, exactly. Like, talk about like real world utility, I guess. But anyway, long story short, they're really they're really he's really showing this thing. But coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, we'll see. The SEC today sent a Wells notice to OpenSea. And so OpenSea is, it was historically the number one NFT marketplace where you can buy and trade these things. It just got absolutely demolished after, and it's sort of a lesson in, let's see, NFT marketplace overview. Yeah, I mean, you can take a look at some of this stuff. You look at the stats here. It used to be very OpenSea heavy, and it just got absolutely demolished by Blur recently. And basically, what you're looking at here is the stats. God, I forget where this chart. There's a really good chart that shows the sort of market dominance of each and how it just gets completely wrecked. But it's just a classic marketplace. NFTs were hot last cycle, and this is a place where you can come buy trade NFTs. Simple as that. They take a bit of the transaction fee. They made a tremendous amount of money very quickly, and raised a ton of money at an incredibly high price. And then since then, it has just gone to complete shit. It's gone down only. It's been very bad, and it's not I think I think there's something to say about the NFT folks at OpenSea as well. But the NFT market is just like not gone well, right? And so it's gone down. And so of course, if no one's buying trading NFTs, the marketplace that facilitates the buying and trading of these NFTs is also not going to do well, right? So that's kind of the obvious thing that's happened there. Although they've also been mired in their own controversy, right? Their head of product famously was buying and flipping these NFTs before they were released, which is, in America, we call that insider trading. And that was not allowed. I think he went to jail. Is that right? I cannot remember, honestly.
Yeah, I'll interject quickly on that point. I think he made like
Like 20
15K
grand.
or
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
20K. Like
Exactly.
of all the I get, yes, it was blatant insider trading, but from everybody I've talked to that knew him, like he was a great employee at OpenSea, and of all the people you could go after in the space, to go after the dude who extracted like 20K, it just seems so crazy to me. But yeah, I think
That
he's
I that
still
I
in
agree
jail,
with.
maybe.
That I agree with. I mean, look, is it wrong?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it a huge deal? I
Like
personally
who
like of all this,
cares?
all the people in crypto to go after. It feels strange to go after this guy.
It'd be one thing if he were like serially doing it and
Right.
extracted like,
And dumping
six figures
tons and
plus
really
out of
and
this.
like
Like
promoting these
that's
rugs or
different.
whatever. Right. This is
Yeah.
like he like he bought a little before the flip. It bought and he sold out, got a little bit on top. Again, I'm not, I don't think we're justifying it, but I think
No,
you
but
do bring up a
it's
good
not
point, which
that
is like
bad.
20K, a little bit of buying and flipping here. It's just a very
Yeah.
different story than what it's being made out to be, right? The insider trading case that you're used to, the connotation at least is, look, you are, shilling some absolute garbage product. You're just dumping this thing on unsuspecting retail, right? Very sort of like boiler room, Wolf of Wall Street esque type nonsense. This is, I do not think that's what this is.
Mm.
Like there's no characterization, no world in which that's how you look at this. So I do think it's a bit of a crazy thing to go after him for. But talk this Wells notice. I mean, what's your take on it? Well, what do you think about this Wells notice to OpenSea?
Yeah, I honestly think a lot of NFTs that were minted out for, a lot of them sometimes could charge like an ETH per mint.
Yep.
I think a lot of those were probably unregistered securities. Just honestly, if we're going by the definition, like they completed the sale, the funds from the sale were put back into the business with the expectation of the people who had bought them that they would profit off of that future work that again they paid for with the mint. Like I think it's unfortunately like textbook security, and I'm actually surprised. So the one thing I'm surprised about, I'm not surprised that they're calling them securities, but I am surprised that it's taken them so long and that they're doing it right now. Like,
Right.
why not do this last cycle where you had all these ridiculously high mint prices, people extracting tens of millions, if not more, out of the ecosystem, NFTs that were producing passive income with tokens and stuff. Like all of those were such easy targets. I'm confused why they waited until now to do this. But I I don't know. It feels to me like with the Trump thing. You mentioned it earlier. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. I mean, I think to pick up where Will was, um, we'll let it go for a second.
Sorry, mailman just showed up at the door.
No worries.
Um, yeah, I think as I was saying, I think it's really odd that they chose now to do this. One thing you mentioned before we started recording, Chris, is that it is suspiciously timed that they would they would send out this Wells notice on the same day that Trump's new NFT that he just announced yesterday would
Yep.
start minting. Feels pointed. I don't know why they would do that outside of just like a screw you. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on this stuff?
I'm like always a little bit, and I've been a little bit jaded and just sort of maybe overly fixated on some of this stuff, and maybe a little bit on the conspiratorial side. I've just seen too many weird things. Now, I do think there's some element of it. Now, I think the comment you made earlier, which is like, does it really matter? Does it like how does it help them to do this? Like, we've seen this cycle already that you can't just like flat out ignore crypto anymore, right? Kamala's had to walk back some of the statements on choke point, I think, and all those types of things. And so, but it's very clear that they're sort of talking out of both sides of their mouth, whereas like their actions make it very clear they don't like this stuff. And then, in practice, but they're verbally, they're like, oh, it's fine, So I do think it's a little bit, it feels targeted. It certainly feels like it's used. And I've seen it. We've seen enough weird things where they're like trying to take down Trump or, use these subtle actions to try and influence things. And so I wouldn't be surprised. The other side of the same argument would be, I'm also always skeptical that the government is well enough coordinated to execute anything, And so like, the idea that they were aware of this, right, is also on its own a thing. And then number two, could actually move quickly enough to execute this, to me feels a little bit like it's a little too easy. Like I just don't think that that capable, I guess, to do something. So the other side of me is like, look, it's just conspiracy talk. It's just nonsense. They're just looking for targets. They're just, maybe the Nate case like opened up this NFT OpenSea thing, and they've just been tracking for a while and waiting until now to send it. So it's unclear. I don't know if there's a lot to take out from it. Truthfully, at the end of the day, is OpenSea in trouble? I don't know. I think they've been in trouble without this. So I don't know if this changes their future very much, to be honest. It's not great though, and I'm sure it doesn't feel great for the employees there. I'm sure it doesn't feel for the team there. Feel great for the team there and all that. So I do empathize with that situation. It sucks. But it does feel like it feels like strange timing, at least zooming out from all of it, to attack OpenSea on this day, but here we are. Maybe
Yeah,
shifting
I mean,
to
I guess it's like
go
a,
ahead.
sorry, quick,
No, no,
quick
please.
thing. I think, I also think they're going after OpenSea specifically just because they were like the biggest narrative name from this whole NFT thing. I mean, really, it's less OpenSea and more the individual projects that were really in violation of this. I mean, I know OpenSea did start facilitating mints for people like a year or two into their popularity, but for the most part, it was just an exchange to trade these things. So I think this is just kind of like a blanket thing. Like rather than going through the efforts of going after each individual party, this is like a message to everybody else, hey, to watch it.
Yep,
So I don't know
agreed.
if they're even really expecting themselves to win this case necessarily, and as much as it is just like a warning for the industry that that
We're
kind of
aware. You know,
behavior. Yeah,
we're
exactly,
still here, you
exactly.
fucks. So
Yep.
I agree with that.
I mean, we went a long time like through the bear market with seemed like very few SEC enforcement actions, and they are fully back.
The last year we've been hit with so many of them, and basically all of the like, they're always American companies. They're always like, in my opinion, of the world of crypto, right? They're usually the like cleaner cut ones, Again, not to say they're perfect, but relative to the cesspool that is crypto, where there's just an
Yeah.
insane amount of nonsense going on. These guys are like, were they perfect? I don't know. I'm not close enough to anything to say, but you would certainly not put them in the bottom quartile, even the bottom half of like bad actors in crypto. These are definitely, in my opinion, top decile, top quartile people. We're just like, look, again, were they perfect? No. Have they committed crimes? Maybe yes. I don't know, but just like, again, compared to the blatant rugs and like the insane scams and all the real nonsense in crypto, these are not the people that you'd go after. So it is classic, US regulation stuff where it's like they're really going after the wrong people, at the wrong time, and the impact is just unclear, So we'll see. We've also seen this from like, it's the classic meme of the dude holding his hands up with the knives going to his back, and it's like the U.S. government protecting consumers, and then like FTX just drops a huge bomb, and like Luna drops a huge bomb, and it's like with the name, and they're like going after like random Russian exchanges nobody knows, So it's definitely that.
It's Lotto.
Yeah, exactly. Bits lotto, exactly. So anyway,
Unbelievable.
yeah, really insane. But maybe shifting gears. Last thing we can talk about today, there was a lot of banter on CT about a tweet from Daddy Vitalik, and it's a very very long tweet. And candidly, I don't really, I would say it's that meme of like I'm not reading all that. Like, it's I'm sorry that happened, or like, I'm glad that happened to you. That I skimmed it for sure. I didn't really go into it. And I feel like I read all the reaction pieces much more detail than I read this one. Is the honest answer, But it seems like the big takeaway from this was sort of people. The main takeaway people had from this was like, okay, Vitalik hates DeFi. Um, and I don't know if that's actually what he was saying. I don't know. Will, what's your take? I mean, how deep you in this? How much you know? See
Yeah,
what's
I
going on?
mean, he's an idealist and he has certain core virtues that he wants everything to be built around. He definitely wasn't saying he hates DeFi. What I think he was saying was more that he hates that so much of DeFi is just driven by the trading of worthless assets. A lot of the yields that we get are from people who are whether it's like just straight up trade volume on an exchange generating yield for people, or it's interest payments from people who have taken loans to gamble on other tokens. most of DeFi yield stems from some kind of activity like that. And I think what he's saying is he he wishes and hopes that DeFi will move more towards like real things where it's not just a he used the example of I may be pronouncing this wrong, Ouroboros, which is like the story of the I think world snake or serpent
It's
that
the
ended up
snake
eating
thing.
its own tail.
Right, right.
Um, which, look, he's not entirely wrong. If we have an ecosystem where it's just no new money flowing in and all these yields are just generated off of fees and interest payments and stuff like that, it is kind of like we're eating our own tail. Where I think he misses the mark is thinking that just because it's people trading tokens, that that's somehow not real. I mean, it's like calling the stock market not real just because people are trading stocks back and forth.
Right.
And I think, I mean, he has a lot of ideas like this. Like he wants, universal housing and universal basic income and all that kind of lofty, virtuous stuff. Which, like, I think I'm not going to make a comment on that stuff. Like, it's just not something I really think about. But that's not what ETH is designed for, at least right now. So it does feel like he is kind of I don't know. He's talking about the future when he kind of should be recognizing that people are taking his comments to be applied to now.
Yep.
And I also think he tends to just write way too much and in a very complicated manner, which is why everybody had to take away that Vitalik hates DeFi, which is just
Right.
not really the whole story.
Right, right. I think he's, my read of it at least, was that he's sick of DeFi nonsense, which I don't think is a crazy thing to say.
The last
And
cycle, it was much crazier, though, for the
yeah,
record.
it's not
Like,
even
this is like
close. I
very
mean, this is
tame
actually pretty
compared
calm.
to
This is
what we
pretty calm,
saw.
because I think meme coins
Yeah.
is not DeFi nonsense. That's just meme
No.
coins. It's a different thing. Whereas last cycle we had real DeFi nonsense, but to be honest, a lot of us are like, man, it's a better time, like certainly wish we could go dive back in. So maybe he
I
has a
miss
point
it,
there.
honestly.
I
I liked
I
it
do
way
too.
more than meme coins and stuff. Yeah.
You and me both. By and not by a little bit, but by an enormous margin. I think it was way more fun. But I mean, I'm with you. Look, I look, I work on Plume, right? And like we do RWAs, right? And a lot of the story is very simple. It's like, trying to bring real yields and real new things into the system to balance out some of the stuff that is very crypto native, and only crypto. And it's not about having one, it's about having both. And so I do think he's got a point in that. I think it can be taken the wrong way. It's not articulate. And I think he's sort of like, again, Vitalik's background is as a writer, right? I mean, he started off doing the Bitcoin magazine, right? And that's kind of how he got into this whole thing. And so, he does like to write, he does like to think, and especially from his vantage point at this point, he really thinks about, it's easy to look down at, or to look at what you've created and think, I had all these high hopes and ambitions, and it turns out people are trading fucking cum rockets and shit like that. You know what I mean? And like, and be disappointed and sort of, correct too aggressively to the other side, which I think is what's happening. And it doesn't mean there isn't truth. I think there's truth in what he's saying, but it also, again, like I think it ignores the reality of the data. It's still an incredible thing that's happening right on crypto rails today. It's bigger than I'm sure it's happened. And these things never go the way you think it's planned, right? You build infrastructure and people do with it what they will, And so, and I think it's great that like, that we have USDC, right? I mean, I think the funny thing is people are like, he's talking about, I don't even know what RAI is, to be honest, but it's like some decentralized stablecoin, and he says I think USDC is less great than RAI, like than RAI, and then like people look like RAI is like a 20 million market cap stablecoin, and USDC is like a multi-billion dollar
Or,
asset, which is like,
yeah,
come on,
it's not done by the same people behind Dai, but it was like a fork of Dai made with only decentralized, like backing sources, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it was never that big. Like it was kind of popular. I want to say like 2 years ago,
right.
but I don't think it ever really got that popular.
I agree. So I mean, look, while I agree with the sentiment, I think it's like, especially all the ETH FUD and all the nonsense going on. It's like that classic CZ meme of like, please, for the sake of our industry, don't ever ask that again. So like, where did the yield come from? I think, Vitalik, you just got to be a little more careful about what your words are and like what's going on here. And I think it's a lot of it's rooted, like you said, in an idealism, in like where things want to go instead of recognizing the reality of where things are and trying to bridge that gap. But look, the truth is, I think there was one comment on Twitter that I think made a lot of sense to me, which is that at the end of the day, the great thing about ETH is this doesn't fucking matter. Vitalik's do whatever the hell he wants. People can do whatever they got to do, right? And it's not some like dictatorship driven by Vitalik. It's open, decentralized network. People can do whatever they want with it, and people will continue to do whatever they want with it, right? Whether it's build L2s, whether it's do whatever you got to do. So like that's the thing that's kind of awesome about this is like it's grown to the point where you can look back and recognize that it just doesn't matter. Like I think this news came and went, and who gives a shit? We continue on. So
And that's why all these concepts of decentralization are so important, especially when you get to the size of an economy like ETH and Bitcoin are now. Like,
yep,
you can't have points of failure where if the founder thinks something should happen and everybody else doesn't, he shouldn't be able to,
force it
force that
through.
thing to happen.
Totally.
Yeah, I think ETH is now at that point, but yeah, we'll see. It's interesting all the same. I think it's a good discussion.
Totally, and you can see, and I think it's timely, given the coming right off the backs of the Ton and not really Ton, but the Telegram stuff and the French stuff, which is like, a truly decentralized network and protocol where anyone can do anything. We really ultimately control it ourselves is an important thing, and these points of centralization lead to bad things almost always, So I think again, it's important stuff, and I think it's a good moment to take a look at it and say like, cool, while this is all happening, the sort of leader of ETH is saying a bunch of shit that a lot of people don't like, and we're like, fuck it, who cares? We're gonna keep doing our thing, which is great. So anyway. Cool. So yeah, it's been a quiet week. Other than that, though, I mean, honestly, it's been like other than like a major arrest and like a blockchain going down to the founder of ETH saying they hate everything on ETH. It's been quiet, but it actually hasn't been that much going on. So I think we're still kind of like back end of the thaw, and coming into the market. I think it's a lot of talks about what's going on, what's going to happen. When are things going to change? When are we going to break out of this range? Are we just stuck here forever? And I think again, for all of us with ADD and mental illness, we sitting on our hands is tough. But I think that's really the takeaway right now. It's like all of this stuff when you zoom out is just futzing. That's all this is. It's just like a bunch of crazy people who can't sit on their hands, and it leads to this type of nonsense. But it does, again, nothing. It feels right. If Jerome says we got rate cuts, we're coming out of this stuff. You can see in just the price action, things are moving the right way. Stablecoin inflows are increasing. And so which assets and what are the cycle going to bring us? We'll find out. But it does feel like things are coming down the right way. We're going to have a nice opening up in Q4, Q1 ish at least, and then we'll see where the world takes us. So,
Yes, sir.
Cool. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch y'all next week.